Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking the video. It means a lot that you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And today we are continuing our new series called Stalking 42, where we look at one Survivor 42 cast member every single day until we get through all 18 cast members. As always, we'll look at their pregame interviews as well as their social medias and EW bios and try to get a sense for how they will do on the show. And today we're looking at Daniel Strunk, a law clerk and or lawyer who lives in Connecticut, which is where I'm from. So go him, I guess, because there's no one from Connecticut who's ever on Survivor. He is the only openly, I guess Republican isn't the word. He claims to be, well, you'll just have to see. But he's very wishy-washy, but it seems like he's almost a Republican in hiding. Like he's almost too scared to say it, which I 100% understand why. It's just like, I wish he would just come out and be like, no, like I'm proud of it. But you know, it's whatever. He says, and again, no one on 41 or 42 for me has been openly this leaning right politically. So it's definitely nice to see that Survivor does at least cast one on the entire season. Because, I mean, God knows that this entire season is just full of people from the other side of the political spectrum. So I do want to dive into who this guy is and just what he's about, if he can win the game, things like that. But before we look into anything else, I'm going to play some clips that I've dropped so far of his pre-game interviews. So I'm just going to play them. It should be probably a minute and a half. Here you go.
I'm Daniel Strunk, and I'm technically a lawyer, but I work right now as a law clerk for a federal judge in Michigan. I had an amazing high school government teacher who got me into the law, and there's at least some preparation for Survivor from that. If they have that challenge where you have to keep your hand up, I'll win that one because my default position in Yale Law School was this. My hand was always up. I grew up watching Survivor, but I really don't know if I have what it takes to be the sole survivor. Look, Las Vegas should not be betting on me. I'm short, a little bit chunky. I don't know if I'll be able to do well in challenges. I don't know if I'll be able to provide around camp. I'm gonna try. I'm obviously a sneaky person. I'm well educated. I'll try to be goofy, but I mean, it's unbelievable to be here at Fiji. I've wanted to be on the show for so long. It's like this itch, and I want there to be no Survivor itch anymore. I don't know if I'll succeed, but that's the goal. My name is Daniel Strunk, and I predict I will win Survivor because I somehow miraculously, in like the Doctor Strange 1 out of 14 billion universes, convince these people to look beyond the fact that I fit the archetype of several past schemers, fit the archetype of several past winners, I'm a cancer survivor, so I have a sob story. It's even worse because my sob story involves Survivor itself, because watching Survivor helped me get through the cancer. So it's not just a sob story, it's a sob story that fits into the arc of winning the show. There is no way I'm gonna win because all these people would be crazy if they didn't vote me out. But I will win. My name is Daniel Strunk, and I will win because all these people are crazy. That's my answer. This is a hard question for me to answer because I've made the strategic decision to be pretty honest about everything. I'm gonna let people know that I'm a law clerk and I will likely practice law after I finish clerking. I will let people know that I am a cancer survivor if they ask, in particular about a scar that gives it away to anyone in the medical profession. I guess the only thing I'm hiding is that I will do everything I can to hide, is that I am of a classical liberal persuasion and have historically worked for Republican political campaigns. At least I worked for the Romney and the Jeb Bush campaign. It's a very different world now, but I wouldn't want that to be known. And I'll steer away from politics as best that I possibly can.
Okay, so to me, I think the first thing I want to talk about is his personal video that he got, his 1 minute long one, where he talks about how, you know, he's in law and how that can help him because of the fact that he was always raising his hand during law school, which I think is pretty funny. This guy obviously has a sense of humor. He doesn't really seem to be a super fan, which is interesting. Internal. I think it's silly of him to share his cancer surviving story before Final Tribal. I think that's your guaranteed voted out. At that point, you're only building up your threat level, but maybe he doesn't end up doing that. But I have a good feeling that he's probably going to end up doing that, which is going to lead probably to something going wrong. whether it's like at that tribal or whether it's like, you know, at Final Four. I feel like he's going to get taken out at some point, but I think he could make merge, especially if he doesn't screw up what seems to be some sort of advantage that he gets in the 42 preview, where we see him basically like pondering what to do with this advantage. So I'm curious to see what type of advantage he found and what he does with it, and if he ends up flaming out with it, or if he ends up using it and going deep into the game instead of getting voted out in the pre-merge. All right, so this is usually the part of the video where I do a deep dive into these people's social media, but good old Daniel, get this, does not have any Instagram posts and has minimal amount of tweets on his Twitter. He literally has like 5 tweets, and then like after that, it goes back to like 2016. Like he basically took like a 4-year break from Twitter, and then he's put like 5 tweets up, you know, in the past year. So he's definitely nothing interesting there. So instead of looking at his social medias, we're instead going to look at 3 things. We're going to look at 1, his personal website / preview for what apparently is going to be his upcoming personal newsletter, his parade.com interview, and his EW bio. And so those are the 3 things that we're going to check out and use to stalk him instead of stalking his social media like everybody else has. So here is his personal newsletter. It's actually not really a newsletter as much as a coming soon for it. It says that it'll be out February 6th, 2022, but it's February, as you can see on my screen. It's 17th right now, and it's still not out. So maybe this is a past idea that like he thought of last year, or like when he, you know, just got off Driver and then he just kind of dropped it. But it seems to me like he was very passionate about it at one point and has now just kind of given up on it, or he's just moving back the date in which it's dropping. But the reason why I feel like he might have just moved on and forgot about it is because of the fact that he's not updating the date for later on. He's kept it at the 6th. He says that he likes Legos, the MCU, television, political philosophy. He said he survived leukemia as a teenager, as we'll hear a lot. He practices law as a plaintiff side lawyer, meaning he prosecutes people instead of defending people. Libertarianism, which if you don't know what libertarianism, that's when you want the government out of your life. So authoritarianism is when you want the government to be in your life because you trust the government to regulate things and things like that. And in the libertarianism is the exact opposite, where you're basically wanting the government to get out of your life because you think that the government has way too much power and has bad intentions, I guess. Most people in modern day America identify with libertarianism. They just put their Democrat or Republican beliefs first. This guy, on the other hand, seems to not. He says he enjoys undergrad, law school, and life. Anything movie / TV, coaching and judging, mock trial, civil procedure, torts. What's a tort? Hold on. A wrongful act or an infringement of a right. What? Okay, moving on. He also enjoys debate. If you're ever in need of a devil's advocate, I love playing devil's advocate as well, so I can definitely identify with this. Okay, let's move on to his parade.com interview, where he says he wants to be goofy, not sneaky. I'll just give you kind of like the highlights because it's a very, very long interview and it's all text. He's from Cincinnati and he was there until he graduated colleges. He says that his family used to watch Survivor instead of doing like Christmas or Hanukkah or Easter, or at least that was more important to him than those on Thursday nights back in the olden days, and that they would eat pizza and cookies and watch the show. He said that he had battled leukemia as a teenager, as he said a lot. He said that he applied every time since he was able to at 18, and that he was close to coming on the show because, you know, if Adam Klein had gotten sick or something, he was Adam Klein's alternate, basically, which just means that if Adam Klein had to back out for any reason, he would have been on the show instead of Adam. And the next one we have is, he also says that, you know, he has this itch to be on Survivor. He says that he keeps a Google Sheets spreadsheet of his entire watch history of every episode, 2 every podcast, things like that. So it seems like he's definitely in the RHAP community, which is disgusting. You should be in the Survivor Spencer community. But again, maybe he's one of these, base people who are actually not base, and instead he's more woke. I don't know, but I guess we'll just see on the show. He says, "Give me one Survivor winner and one non-winner who you identify with." So the non-winner, he says, is Zeke, because he likes that Zeke was playing very hard, but just acted and really was just genuinely trying to have fun, and that made him less of a threat. And he says Todd Herzog for the winner, and he's actually pretty self-aware. He says that, you know, Todd's game is not repeatable right now because of the fact that Todd's game was like, okay, I'm going to plan this out. We're going to blindside this person here, and here, and that's it. You know, and I'm going to take my alliance to the end of the game and have a really, really good final tribal. That's not really a really repeatable game right now because the game is just so fluid right now with the twists and all of that stuff. So I definitely think that he's very self-aware of where the game's at right now. For one life experience that he feels prepared him for the game most, he says 1, going through chemotherapy for 3 straight years. He also says, the idea of going to Yale Law School, which is where he went to law school, is also really, really, prepared him for Survivor, because it's obviously a place where a lot of people come out of there and end up being very, very intelligent people. He also says that he wants to be goofy and not sneaky, and that he purposely didn't do his hair out of control just to make him look like, sort of a person who's kind of all over the place and is kind of nuts. He even makes fun of himself, saying that his haircut is like Martin Van Buren. So I definitely think that he is very self-aware and he likes that self-deprecating humor. Let's move on to his EW bio. So he's age 30, from Cincinnati, but he lives in New Haven, Connecticut, which, dude, why are you moving to Connecticut? It's a terrible, terrible choice, buddy. I've lived here my entire life. It's a terrible, terrible place. He's a law clerk. He's a movie fanatic. He likes Legos, keeping track of things, and Survivor. He says he's ebullient and driven, which, again, I think I looked up ebullient in my 42 cast assessment video where I went through this before. His pet peeves are people who are so convinced that they're right that they foreclose debate, meaning that they just don't want to debate, which I 100% agree with. People who are disruptive in movie theaters, people who try to talk to you even when you're wearing headphones, and then oatmeal raisin cookies masquerading as chocolate chip cookies. All agree 100%, although oatmeal raisin cookies can be good at times, in my personal opinion. He talks about how he wrote a personal philosophy on what he thinks the purpose of life is and how his battle with cancer affected that. He says that he has signed pocket U.S. constitutions that have been signed by a bunch of justices on the Supreme Court, as well as the Chief Justice. And so it's interesting. He's very into government. He says his hero is George Washington for resisting, the power that he could have taken at the time. I think for me, he's definitely trying to play up this inner goofy type of personality, saying that he wants to embrace his inner goofy like Fabio, and that he wants to be like Yul and Todd. And he seems to not really be confident in himself in the game, saying that he thinks the odds are against him and that it's all going to be a matter of threat management. So he's definitely going in thinking that he's going to be one of these power players that might be taken out. And I think that's almost a bad way to go in, because you don't want to go in just saying, oh well, I'm just gonna lose. That's not the mindset that you probably want to have. But I can also understand what he's saying and how he probably thinks that his way of playing the game is going to be seen as a huge threat, and also the fact that he has such a great jury story if he gets to the end. I think this guy definitely has potential. I think he's probably going to be either a pre-merge boot, like a mid pre-merge boot, or he's like your mid-merge boot. I don't really see him making finale. I also don't see him being like the merge boot. I think he'll be a player that it gets powerful, but just is way too much of a threat, going out in a similar way that Elaine goes out in 39, where she's just a big fan favorite, and they all know that they need to get her out to have any chance at winning the game. And so those are my opinions on Daniel Strunk. I think Daniel's definitely an interesting casting choice. I definitely appreciate it, and right now he's the person who I'm rooting for the most overall. Who are you rooting for on this season? I personally like Daniel the most. I also like Jonathan, but definitely Daniel. I think that those two are the two that are closest to being based, and so that's why I'm picking them. But again, guys, none of this happens without you guys. Without you guys, I'm just a weird guy speaking into a weird microphone. And if that's not, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.